Hey, good morning, everyone. Let's go ahead and get started. Actually, give me one quick second. All right, let's go ahead and start from the top. So, welcome everybody. Thank you for being here on time. As usual, I'm beyond grateful for everyone that continues to show up and continues to see value in what it is that we're working on. So, just want to take a minute, of course, to acknowledge those of you that are joining us on all the other platforms: TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and of course, YouTube. Welcome. I am going to encourage you to come join us over here on Zoom, as of course gives us the opportunity to better interact. All right, with that being said, let's go ahead and jump right in. We're going to cover for rent by owners literally just this week. I know we had some challenges last week, but neither here nor there. We're going to go ahead and go through the entire setup of the for rent by owners in the next 3 days, including that of the script. So let's jump right into it. If anybody has any questions, feel free to go ahead and type them in, whatever platform you're on. We'll go ahead and get those questions addressed. For those of you that are here on Zoom, you're welcome to just simply chime on in and then go ahead and ask your questions, and we'll, of course, get those addressed. First off, for rent by owners. What are for rent by owners? Well, for rent by owners kind of falls in the categories with all the other absentee owners, investors, basically in a sense in that pool. What I like most about this source is that this is where the elites of the elite start to separate themselves. I'm going to share with you guys a very quick little story. Went through basically the market crash of 2008, and in 2008, I was pretty distraught, and I'm going to start with that here just very briefly. Now, why was I distraught is because literally in 2007, I went and made a little over $1.4 million in income. And then in 2008, with the entire market crashing, I made a little over $120,000. Now, I know for some, it's like, well, you still made six figures. Yeah, but that was like a 90, almost 5% pay cut. And of course, lifestyles and everything really took a hit. And because of this, I kind of found myself a little bit adrift for a year or two, trying to figure myself out, going through all of this, change, if you want to call it, through financial change. And it was a blessing in disguise. Obviously, in retrospect, it's way different going through it. But in that, one of the things that I found myself in part of my rediscovery phase is I was asked by Keller Williams region to see if I would lead on a coaching program. And this is basically when KW Maps coaching started. I started to get into that. I became a productivity coach. And anyways, the point that I'm making is as I started to coach some individuals, I didn't know how to coach. I was an absolute, and I apologize to those people who actually, started coaching with me way back then. Because my coaching sucked, back then. It was a lot of do as I tell you. I'm not going to do it. You're doing it all wrong. It was just, there was no structure behind it. And in this, I did create a door knocking club. And I remember my very first month starting this door knocking club because I was frustrated sitting there trying to speak to these 10, 12, 15 agents within the offices, and they just weren't doing anything. I would sit there and tell them, you got to do this, you got to do that, you got to do this other stuff, and they weren't doing anything. Well, in that case, who am I? Because I wasn't doing it myself. So I finally said, look, I'm going to take you guys out and I'm going to show you how I did this. Okay. So I started and I said, okay, what we're going to do is I want you guys to meet me at the office. I remember it was a Friday, and some of my best things have always come on Thursdays and Fridays. Anyways, on Friday, I said, we're going to go out and knock on doors. And as I went out, took a person with me. They shadowed me for, 10, 15 doors, took another person 10, 15 doors, another person 10, 15 doors. Anyways, I did this for 4 Fridays. I kid you not, by the end of that month, and mind you, I was pretty much out of production. I wasn't really doing anything. I was really on the administrative side. I had just left a year of being responsible for the launching of KW Commercial. Anyways, this isn't a KW plug by any means. So we're just kind of going through these administrative side, salary, so on and so forth. So I finally started to go through and knocking on doors. In that very first month, I took 4 listings. Why did I do that? Because I knew what I was doing. I knew how to do it. And in that moment, I said to myself, why am I sitting across this desk and talking to people that aren't willing to do anything I'm telling them to do? So I made the decision that I was going to get back into full-time production. Now, why this comes into play is because I sat there and I strategized and I said, okay, how do I get to 100 deals a year like this? Now, it didn't happen like that because the market was still a little bit on the soft side. But I started to look at what if I went after, which I didn't before. Okay, I never went after this particular source. What if I went after absentee owners? And as I went after absentee owners, I said, I'm going to go call these people that own 20, 30, 50, 100, 200 homes and, get a handful of deals that way. Well, as I started to move in a forward direction, I was building quite a bit of momentum. And I started to meet people that were the fix and flip. My idea of fixing and flipping was buying a house, putting a tenant in there for a year, and then a year later selling it for an extra $50,000, $100,000. That was my idea of fixing and flipping. But I started meeting these people. Then I started meeting other people that said, hey, look, if you can get me a really good value, 80, 90 cents on the dollar, I'm not looking to flip properties. I'm just looking to buy and hold on to them. Well, I started to work in this pool of investors. And in this pool of investors, I started realizing the absentee owners, the investors, the fix and flip, the buy and hold. And then I started realizing that there was also a niche market, which was the for rent by owners. Because as I'm calling some of these people, they're saying, well, no, I'm renting this property out. So I found a niche in that market, which was for rent by owners, that I started to create basically all of this investor pool. And in this investor pool, fix and flip, buy and hold, acquisitions, wholesales, eventually joint ventures, partnerships, me fixing and flipping, so on and so forth. And one of the sources I was the most successful was the for rent by owners. And the reason for that is because these people tried to go on the market. Think about this slower market. They tried to go on the market. They didn't sell it. I don't have cash flow for the last 3, 6 months, a year. So now I need to get some version of cash flow because this property's been off the market, vacant, sitting there, collecting dust. I'm not collecting any income. Let me just rent it out. So as I'm calling these for rent by owners, I would ask them, would you consider selling it? Well, I mean, if we got a fair price, sure, we would be open to selling it. But for right now, we're just going to rent it out. So I started to create these alliances. And I would say, well, why don't we do this? Why don't you try renting it out? And if I can sell it, may the best man win. And if I sell it, you pay me a commission. And if you rent it, you don't have to worry about it. Well, some of those properties started to get rented out. And I'm like, man, I'm kind of losing out on this opportunity. So now I started going into how do I not let those opportunities go to the wayside? So I started telling those people, well, what if you rent it out? And what if I could still find a buyer for your home with a tenant already inside? Would you be open to the idea of selling it? Well, yeah, that was the original intent. This is just kind of a band-aid to the situation. So I started to evolve. And what I'm trying to get at with everyone in regards to this a little bit winded story is simply that there is a mega pool of opportunities. And that is what everybody I, in a sense, just described. So what I'm going to encourage you to do, number one, is we're talking about for rent by owners in specific. But in the for rent by owners, you can go after that using a dialing system. Of course, I encourage you to use Vulcan. It's on my website. You go to my website, www.therobertvillanueva.com. You go there. You're going to go to Vulcan. They're going to give you for rent by owners. I'm also going to encourage you to go after some of these absentee owners because they're not always, in a sense, marketing, or advertising their properties for rent. Yet they have a second, a fourth, a fifth, a 10th, a 20th, and a 50th. One of my strongest coaching clients, okay, and I'm going to give you guys some value, and I'm doing a little bit of storytelling here. One of my strongest coaching clients took a very similar approach. And Christian, when we started, I told him, hey, look, this is what I did. This is how I did this. And he goes, Coach, I want to do the exact same thing. And I said, well, every once in a while, you're going to come across an absolute whale, which is literally what launched Christian's, in a sense, career, because he started calling a lot of these absentee owners. And sure enough, he calls me up one day and he goes, Coach, guess what? I'm like, what's up? I found an investor that has over 500 properties that they're trying to liquidate and completely sell and get rid of because they're going to end up moving the money into building businesses, but they need the money from the residential sales. He says, so what he's going to do is he's going to hand me 20 listings at a time and basically do these package sales. So 20 listings and then get another 20 and so on and so forth. So he started to find the value in that. And instantly his business absolutely took off. As a matter of fact, we shared a handful of listings. We probably, I don't know, maybe 30, 40 listings that we actually ended up sharing together because he was getting so much inventory that started to take place. So there is a tremendous value. Now, why do I invest a little bit of time on this? Because very few people go after this. Okay, very few people go after this. This is an area of opportunity. I'm going to share with you how to create this list, what to do with them, how to go after them, what is basically the script, and every single one's going to have a little bit different of a conversation. But we're going to talk specifically about for rent by owners. So let me throw it over to you guys, seeing if there's any questions, any comments, any concerns, so on and so forth. Okay, so it's funny. Christian, hey, thanks for tuning in. As a matter of fact, he just commented. I love that. Okay, so any questions, anything that I can address? All right.
No,
so we're going to get
more around like what you're saying is not a lot of people go after this,
Yep.
but you have to really think about it. Investors don't normally only have one property, like they're having multiple properties. And of course, going after it like Christian did, it's very strategic also. So it's a great topic.
Yeah, I love that, and that's the one thing, Lizette, that obviously since we've been working together is, the investment lingo is completely different than the typical residential lingo. The residential lingo, what I mean by that, the SFR, single family residence, maybe a duplex, triplex, but a lot of those people are thinking about, themselves, their kids, their lifestyle, their so on and so forth. But with the investors, what they look at, what I love most is the bottom line. They take out the entire emotion part of the transaction, and they are they can be high emotion, but they're not emotional about where the couch is going to fit all this other stuff. So now they're looking at the numbers and so on and so forth. So in this, there is a different conversation. Now, let me share with you guys, where can I get investors? Okay, where can I get investors? The first thing is looking at absentee owners. You can go into Vulcan. You go through, which a lot of people that do some version of prospecting do with what is called circle prospecting, or a version of just listed, just sold. They take a radius, they pick a neighborhood, there's 500 homes, and what you can do is that there is this little button that you can click or a box you can check, and it says non-owner occupied. Okay, again, I'm giving you guys gold. You click that box. And in that clicking of the box, ideally, those are going to be the only people you're gonna end up having conversations with. Out of a community of 500 people, maybe there's about 20, 30, or even 40 of the homes that are going to be non-owner occupied, meaning that it's a secondary home for these people. And the secondary home for these people is you're going to be able to start to collect their information and build a relationship. Now, here's the thing, though, you need to understand is that 99.9999% of them already have a realtor. They've worked with a realtor. They've spoken with a realtor. They have a Rolodex of realtors. There's a realtors are a dime a dozen. So they see this much value in most realtors. But you can separate yourself by simply building, in a sense, that relationship. Now, the 0.0001 percenters are basically the people that they just acquired the property because their great aunt Betty passed away 6 months ago and said, hey, I want to give it to my nephew because he was such an amazing nephew, and I'm going to leave him the property. Now this person has this property that has been given to them, and the property that's been given to them is in disrepair. It has, 10, 15, 20 years of deferred maintenance. And now this person's like, okay, the mortgage is $2,200, yet they're paying $1,800 plus taxes. So how do I cover this? I'm having a hard time even covering it myself. So the very first thing that they do, let me sell it. And in selling that, now they look for an agent. Well, I haven't transacted anything. I've never used a realtor. I don't know what to do. That's the 0.001 percenters that are out there, and you're going to find them just by simply giving these people, in a sense, a call. For rent by owners, they're marketing their home for rent. And in that, well, Robert, they're marketing it for rent. Yeah, you're right. But there's a percentage of them that tried to sell it. And or a percentage of them, if you do your job in terms of educating them, of saying, I understand you have this one rental property. However, if there's a way where I could double, triple, or even quadruple your income, your cash flow, would you be open to the conversation? Well, what do you mean? Well, see, here's the thing is you have one door, one tenant, one income. And if that tenant ends up leaving, how is that going to impact you? Well, I'm not going to get any cash flow. Right. Well, who's going to be responsible for the mortgage then? Well, I guess I will. Are you in a position where you can afford two mortgages? Oh, absolutely not. Or it's paid off. Well, it's great that it's paid off, but how's that helping on the cash flow? It isn't. See, here's the thing, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, is with what you have is you have with what is a high risk, low reward asset. Millionaires and billionaires use real estate as a vehicle. And what they do is they take the monies from this home and move it over to a duplex, triplex, or even a fourplex. And see what that does is that lowers their risk. Let me show you how. They take the monies from here, they move it over to a fourplex, and in a fourplex, let's say that two of the tenants ends up leaving. As you can see, you still have 50% cash flow. And a good percentage of the time, because it is 4 units, the ideal thing is 3 of them should cover your mortgage. So really by having 2 tenants leave, you're really only having to cover 1 of them. So your risk is lower, yet your reward is higher. Does that make sense? Okay, so now that gives them, of course, the opportunity. Go after fix and flippers. I mean, ask them, hey, if I find you an opportunity, would you be open to the idea of me representing you? Heck yeah, trust me. These people, and I say this, because the amount of fix and flippers that I've worked with, there's no loyalty. Okay, their loyalty is if they can make another buck or 2 or 5 with someone else, they're going to go in that direction. Now, I get it. There are like this many fix and flippers that are loyal to their people. But even then, that relationship only lasts so long. Trust me, I had a relationship with an individual. I won't say the person's name. We sold pretty close to about 200 properties, acquisition, wholesales, fix, flip, partnerships, so on and so forth. So over 200 properties. And then just one day, he just says, hey, Robert, you know what? I decided to get my broker's license and I no longer need your services. Oh. Well, that was 30 to 40 properties every single year, like clockwork, that I was selling for this person. So if you find the opportunity, build those relationships is what I'm getting at. Okay. So now let's talk about what they want. Okay, what they want. And again, if you have any questions, and Lizette, if you have any other insights, feel free, just jump in. How do we know what they want? A good percentage of fix and flip. We're going to talk about a couple of different things. Fix and flippers are going to want property 70 to 75 cents in the dollar, no more. What that means is a $400,000 property at 75% is $300,000. If you see these opportunities, there's going to be a good 9 out of 10 investors that will say, I will take that opportunity. So if you find something that's 75 cents in the dollar, absolutely, there's an opportunity. Now, what about the other ones that are a little bit more than that? Well, let's say, for example, that the property is worth 400, and I know obviously I'm speaking here Central Valley, so let's say 800,000 for my LA people, and if you can get it for 600,000, there's a great opportunity. But let's use the example: 400,000, and the property is worth, in your estimation, about $400,000 in value. But the seller's only willing to get, take it for 350. They're only willing to work at 350. Well, there's not enough cushion in there. Can you get from 350 to 340 to 330? No, they're firm at 350. Okay, well, can you go from 400 to 410 to 415 to 420 if maybe you can add a little whatever? Well, maybe a little bit. You might be able to get a 415. There's just not enough meat on that bone. There are investors, especially in today's market, where they will take that risk, or they may even take on the position of that property and hold on to it for 6 months, a year, rent it out, and then flip it then. So there's always going to be those opportunities, and in that, sometimes they are going to be the for rent by owners. Okay, so I just want to make sure we understand that. Also, there's going to be the other people that are the buy and hold. The buy and hold people just say, hey, look, I'm just not looking to pay retail. If you can give me that 400,000 for 350, I'll take it all day. And they will. Okay, they will. So find the people that are looking to fix, flip, the buy and hold. You're going to start to create these lists as you're calling people. As you're having these conversations with people, you're reaching out to them. No, not interested. Well, if I get an opportunity that's 70, 80 cents on the dollar, would you want to know about it? Well, yeah, if you get an opportunity, let me know. Okay, perfect. Are you looking to fix and flip, or are you looking to buy and hold? Well, it really depends on what what the property entails. Well, what's your preference? There is no preference. I'll take both of them. Perfect. Boom. I'm going to put that person on list A and then that list on list B. And all you're doing as you're having these conversations, knocking on doors, so on and so forth, you're going to start to put these people on this list. You don't have a listing yet, but all of a sudden you go through, you speak to a for rent by owner, and the person says, "Look, my property is worth $425, but if you could get me $380, I'll take that." Great. Let me get on my list. I start calling my A list and my B list. And as you go through, start calling your A list and your B list, what's going to end up happening is you're going to start to have creme de la creme. And the creme de la creme basically means that these people are going to start to elevate themselves because you're going to get some people that are the looky-loos. No, that property is not for me, the investor. No, that property is not for me. No, that property is not for me. And you're like, dude, you're calling yourself an investor, but you're not acting on anything that I'm giving you. So now you start to identify the people that are performing. You call the other person and go, "Hey, Lizette, hey, this is Robert the realtor. Yeah, you told me to give you a call whenever there's opportunities. Well, I have this great property right now. It's worth about 420, 425. Seller's willing to get rid of it at around 360, 380. Is this something that you would entertain?" "Oh, you're in the market. Great, perfect. Well, let's go over some of the details about the property." Now Lizette's performing as an investor. And then I go through, I get another property. Guess who the very first person I'm going to call? Lizette. She performed. And then I get another property. I call Lizette. She performs. Boom. Now I'm establishing a relationship with this person. You don't need a list of 10, 15, 20, 30, 50 of these type of investors. You just need a 1, 2, 3, or 4 of them so that you can, in a sense, get started. But until you know who that person is, you're going to want to start to create these lists. Okay. Now, let me go ahead and share the script because I want to make sure I break it down. I only have 3 days to, in a sense, break this down. Again, if anybody has any questions, feel free to jump in. All right, here we go. So in this, I'm going through, I'm calling basically this list of for rent specifically by owners. And what I mean by specifically, they have their property up on the for rent different sites. And on this, I'm going through, "Hi, I was calling about the home for rent. Are you the owner?" Hey, why am I asking that question? Robert, you say never ask a yes or no question right out the gate. This is the exception. The reason for that is because they say, "No, we're not the owner. We're managing the property for the owner." That leads me to a different conversation. Now, if they say, "Yes, I am the owner," perfect. Is this property still available? "No, we just rented it out." Or, "Yeah, it is available for rent." "My name is Robert. I'm a local realtor with blank blank realty. And if you could get a fair price for your home, would you consider selling it?" Again, Robert, you're saying yes or no. That's perfectly fine because guess what? I do have a yes and or a no. If they say no, I understand. It's always a great idea to keep real estate as investments. Where else do you own rentals? And then they go, "Well, I have one here, I have one there, I have one over here." Awesome. Great. When are you considering to sell or upgrade your investments? "Well, I'm not looking to sell anything." Great. When are you looking to add your real estate portfolio? All you're doing is moving this in a sense forward. Well, what if they say after, "If you could get a fair price for your home, would you consider selling it?" They say yes. Great. As far as would you reinvest it back into real estate or will you simply cash out? Well, we toyed with the idea of getting a duplex, a triplex, or a fourplex, or you know what, we're looking to consolidate, we're looking to cash out. There's all kinds of walks of life in these people because they're going to come across in so many different directions. There's going to be some people that are going to be absolutely cash out. And then there's going to be other people that's like, absolutely not. I'm 28 years old and I'm looking to grow my portfolio to as many properties. How long have you owned this property, by the way? Okay. Where else do you own rentals? This starts to paint a little bit of a picture for me. Have you thought about adding more rentals to your real estate portfolio? Now, I like this term portfolio, and the reason I do, I noticed when I started to use this word early on is I would get a little bit of differentiation. And the differentiation was when I would sit there and say, growing your real estate portfolio, I would get some people that would say, my what? Your real estate portfolio. What is that? Oh, I'm working with a novice. I'm working with somebody who's basically just getting started or has no clue with what the whole investment arena is about. Or they say, you know what? Absolutely, I'm looking to grow my real estate portfolio. Great. How big is your real estate portfolio now? Well, I have 87 units. How big are you looking to grow it to? Well, I'm looking to get to 1,000 units. Good. Is there a certain thing now you start to get into the investor lingo? Are you looking at certain ROI? Are you looking at certain cash on cash? Are you looking at cash flow? Are you looking at a cap rate? What is it that you're looking for? Don't worry about this part. Okay. Don't worry about this part because the very first time I had a conversation with somebody, they go, well, if you can find me something at around 8 or 9% cap rates, I'll take it all day long. Oh, okay. Yeah. I can find you one of those. And I'm like, what the heck is a cap rate? Looked it up and I said, okay, well, what properties fall under 8, 9% cap rate? Nothing. Okay, absolutely nothing under an 8 or 9% cap rate. So I'm like, damn, okay. Anyways, the point is you're going to start to educate yourself. Moving on. So I come across properties at 70, 80 cents on the dollar. Would you like me to add you to my investor list? And of course, that's if they say no, not looking to add. They say, well, yeah, sure, that's fine. Going back to my A and B list. What's the A and B list? Remember, A is people that are fixing and flipping. B is my buy and holds. So that's the only reason for the separation. And some people might be on both. If they say yes, looking to grow their real estate portfolio, share with me how many more properties would you like to add this next year? I'd love to share with you how I help investors. When is a good time to meet? Would Monday or Tuesday at 5 work better for you? All I'm doing is building this relationship with these people. They don't know me. I am nothing more than another dozen of realtors. And all I'm doing with these people is building that rapport and that relationship. Okay. Here's an alternate. If there's a way I can double, triple, or even quadruple your income, would you want to know about it? And I would get some investors like, what are you talking about? How's that even virtually possible? Well, you see, going back to what I opened up with, you see, you own one door, one tenant, one income. If that tenant leaves, who's responsible for the mortgage? That is what we call as a high risk, low reward asset. Does that make sense? Now, here's what I do. I help a lot of investors like yourself move the money from the home over to a duplex, triplex, or even a fourplex. Let's use a fourplex as an example. And let's say that 2 of the tenants leaves. As you can see, this is 50% of the income. This is a lower risk and higher reward asset. Does that make sense? I'd love to share with you how I help investors. When is a good time to meet? Would Monday or Tuesday at 5 work better? So the purpose of this script, it doesn't matter. I went through, this is 100% pure organic Robert-ism script. And I went through and I was just boom, no. Okay, let me change that. Boom, no. Let me change that. Boom, no. Let me change that. Boom. Well, we're thinking about it. Oh, there we go. I got something. So little by little in that, any questions, comments, concerns, any insights, Lisette, anything that I can share with anybody of anything? We're all good? Okay. So let's keep plugging away. And if you guys have any questions, we're going to go over this again tomorrow and on Thursday. I'm going to keep it very short and brief. So any questions, any comments, any concerns?
Robert, with regards to some of the questions, like one of the first questions you started asking is like, well, how many properties do you own? Kind of feels invasive, no?
Sort of, because you're talking to investors. It's no different than talking to for sale by owners. And you're going to likely get some occasional responses. Why does that matter to you? You're absolutely right, Greg. It doesn't matter to me. My goal is to help investors like yourself. And I'm just curious, how many more properties would you like to add to your portfolio? So whether they say yes or no, or they're rude or indifferent, it doesn't really, in a sense, matter. All we're doing is building, in a sense, that rapport.
Got it. Makes sense. Thank you.
There's a dime a dozen. Okay, just like there's realtors, dime a dozen, there's a dime a dozen of investors. There's going to be some absolutely obnoxious, rude off the charts people. Don't work with them. You start to work with the people, they go, well, I only have a couple of them right now, but I'd like to grow it to at least 10. Well, how soon are you looking to get to those 10? Well, I'm right now 46 years of age, and if I can get at least the other 8 before I retire right around 60, 65, I think I'll be happy. Maybe one every 3 or 4 years. Good, awesome. I'd love the opportunity to help you. So it doesn't matter whether they are, absolute with confidence, or they're the novice just barely getting started because their Aunt Mary gave them a property 6 months ago. All we're doing is building that relationship.
Hey, Robert, would you say these are better than expires?
No, I don't ever say one source is more than better than another. For me, it was very, very fruitful. I want to say, as far as investors are concerned, I want to say I've done probably about 600 to maybe 700. It's probably the third most productive. Number one is database for me. Number two was just listed, including that of door knocking. And then number three is going to be the investors, that then would be expireds. So in that case, I would say, Sandy, for myself, it was more fruitful, but that was only because I had a longer window. With the expireds, I literally only worked it for a good 4 or 5 year window, where with investors, I've worked on it for about 15 years. Okay.
What was your number 1 and 2? I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
What was your number 1 and 2?
Database and just listed.
Oh, thanks.
So in that, I mean, ultimately, everybody's going to be their own, because I can sit here and say, as far as absentee owners, investors, so on and so forth, and then somebody else is killing it in social media. So there is no one is better than other. It's whether you're willing to put the time, energy, or effort in. All right. So with that being said, I will see you guys tomorrow. Let's have a powerful and productive day. I'll see you guys soon. Thank you.
Thank you.